New York Artists Collective. Hi there and welcome to the New York Artists Collective podcast. This next one's about, if you haven't checked out our podcast before, well, this is what it's about. So we are the New York Artists Collective. We are a songwriters circle. We produce shows in New York City with 3 songwriters in a Nashville-style round. And this podcast takes one of our artists and asks them to take us backstage of one of their songs, the creative process, and how it became the song that we're going to play a little later on in the show. My name is Stephanie Manns. I myself am a singer-songwriter and one of the producers of the New York Artists Collective. And today's guest is neo-folk singer-songwriter Eli Lev, and he's going to be telling us about his new single, One Road, set for release later this month. Eli Lev, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Stephanie. I'm excited to be here.
You're based in DC.
Right, in Silver Spring, Maryland, so the last metro stop outside of DC on the Maryland side.
So this is quite fun for me because we haven't actually met in person. This is one of those fun Instagram meetings, I love Instagram, and I think it provides so many opportunities for people to connect, especially musicians, actually. I don't know how you feel about that.
I do. I met my lead guitarist through Instagram, so I'm very happy with its connecting possibilities.
Let's be clear, you do come to New York quite a bit to do shows.
Yeah, so I've been in New York 2 or 3 times now to be playing kind of shows, and I'll have another show, I guess, very soon at Rockwood Music Hall. So very excited about that too. Yes,
and we're going to talk about that, and that's as part of your single release, correct?
Mm-hmm. And I've been connecting to the New York scene a lot with Cyber PR, Ariel Hyatt, and also Carrie Cole, the vocal coach up there. So really kind of fascinated with all the good stuff going up there in New York. And to be honest with you, we don't really have an industry here in DC yet. So New York is like the closest place where I can go and like connect with the pros. So
you describe yourself as neo-folk. I've not heard that before. I thought that was an interesting moniker. Is that the right term? Did you come up with that, or was that something that you came across before?
I don't know if I came up with it. I feel like it's kind of come through my consciousness. So I was like, oh, that's interesting, because folk sounds old and antiquated. So if I say neo-folk, it almost makes it relevant, even though I love folk and I think folk is timeless. Mm-hmm. But, saying neo-folk gives it a little bit of a, interesting edge. So that's cool that it made you think twice.
Well, I mean, sometimes people go with like indie folk, which is kind of a new one, but neo-folk is a new twist on that, which I really liked. So your EP, you're releasing an EP in December.
Yeah. And
you are releasing 2 songs ahead of that?
Yes. So One Road's coming up, and then Treason will be the kind of single when the album comes out. Then the upcoming album is called Way Out West, and my first album is All Roads East, and it's part of a 4-directional project that I'm doing.
Presumably South and North are coming at some point.
You got it. Deep South and True North.
Love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us about your song One Road.
So I guess most of my songs on my first album were kind of like a mix of, folk and roots and blues and kind of like an Americana sound. And then Way Out West is kind of like an exploration into, detuned mandolins and banjo arpeggios and big kind of like stadium sounds that you wouldn't necessarily associate with folk music. So One Road is a really kind of like the first, idea of that. And it's just this big kind of like anthemic folk rock ballad that I haven't really explored yet. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really interested to see what the world is going to think about it. So.
And lyrically, I think it's one road and then you say 2 friends.
Mm-hmm.
So is it kind of about a road trip?
It could be. So it's 1 road, 2 friends, 3 worlds, and 4 winds. And I kind of like to leave that up to the interpretation of the listener, because it actually means a few different things to me as well. Did you think the traveling vibe?
I got that.
Picked up on the traveling vibe?
I definitely got that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely a big theme of my songs.
For me as well, I think the way that the guitar, was sort of quite, I wouldn't say pounding, that's the wrong word. It was just very steady kind of through that. And I thought, oh, okay, it just sort of felt like it was moving as if some sort of travel transportation type thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you picked that up, because that's definitely the idea. The song is talking about the journey, and whether it's music or each one of our journeys, I feel like anybody can kind of step on that path and just go with it through this song. So yeah, I'm really excited to get it out there.
That's awesome. Should we take a listen?
Yes. This is One Road.
Feeling pretty good this time.
I can see the leaves are smiling red and gold. The wind starts moving in. It's like I'm living in the stories of old. Well, I can hear the poets calling out in the forest. They're wishing me well. Those bards of bygone times have gotten me on one road. I'm traveling on with two friends. I'm going around in three worlds. Have I been here before and when? I'm bringing my shopping knife, leaving my bag behind. It's all in my heart. The beat grows in my chest, melodies on my breath. I'm ready to start. Well, I can hear the poets writing words about us. What a story they tell. Those bards of bygone times have gotten me on one road. We're traveling on with two friends. We're going round in three worlds. Have we been here before and when? Give me strange lands, songs I never heard sung before. Give me warm hands, hold me when I'm feeling unsure. One road, two friends, three worlds, and four winds. One road, we're traveling on with our friends. We're going around in three worlds. Have we been here before and when? No, we're always on one road with our friends. With three worlds, with four winds.
One Road. Eli, it's a great song. I really enjoyed listening to that on my way home today.
Oh, thanks.
And obviously before, because I do my homework much ahead of time. So tell me about the influence for that song.
Yeah, so I've just, I'm very new to doing music. I just started doing it full time maybe last year after being a career educator. And so there was this moment where I realized that I was kind of connecting to a entire lineage of people who have decided to take a creative path in their lives, from that first person who put their hand, on a cave and put paint around it, to, even thousands and hopefully millennials in the millennium years in the future, where, people are still going to be like doing some kind of craft. Like stepping into that lineage just gave me like this really tingly feeling, So it was just this really cool thing. And there's a line in the song where it's, I can hear the poets calling out in the forest. They're wishing me well, kind of like connecting to all those folks who have, who have taken the creative route in life. So, yeah.
I don't know if enough people kind of connect that sense of, we are the poets of our generation, if you like, and
Yes.
that's, how stories used to be told, or in fact, a lot of, folk music was people going from town to town, singing the news in a way so that people could hear what was going on in the other towns,
Exactly.
And I find that fascinating. And I guess, that's how folk music has developed into storytelling, or the storytelling that we know today.
Right. And I feel like, we get wrapped up in, my career or like what I'm doing for my music, but really like we're bards, we're poets, we have like a, an obligation to our, society and time and place to, speak truths and important aspects of what we see. So at one point it's kind of a responsibility, but the other point, it allows us to really connect to, our audience and our friends and family and fans, and, have like a dual loop, like we speak and we listen too. So yeah, I really like that sentiment, and so I wrote the song.
And so you were saying that you just went full time with this last year.
Yes, it was a little bit of a leap, but I'm in it.
That's amazing, and I think a lot of people don't appreciate that. An awkward period where you are doing the full time job, you're also kind of, but you have the music on the side, and then you're sort of trying to make the full time gig smaller, and then the music bigger, and then eventually kind of lose the other side of it. So how has that transition been for you?
Yeah, so I had just finished up grad school actually. I was going to be a teacher trainer, so I had this kind of gap in my life, and actually did not have a job. So I took some travel, and I just happened to come back to the DC area after being away for a while. I grew up around here, and I just played a couple of shows, and it went well. And people asked, "Well, when's your next show?" And I didn't really know, and so I just kept picking up shows, and people started interested, and I was like, "Well, I guess I should make a Facebook page then or something." And then a year later, it's like the website and the album and another album coming out and playing with the full band. So it's really taken off. But it's not all obviously original gigs, but it's part of it as well. So.
And how do you find doing the covers gigs? Do you find it's a draw on your time in terms of your creative energy?
Well, usually during the week, I try and pick up as many cover gigs as I can, and weekends as well. And I gotta tell you, like, playing a 4-hour cover gig for like around $100, like that'll really get you hardened. I feel like I went through performance boot camp, doing these cover gigs and beer gardens and wineries and restaurants, and I still do these shows, and you know I refuse to have a negative attitude about it, because I've learned how to play lead guitar pretty much on these gigs, like putting down a loop, making a rhythm, and like teaching myself lead guitar, trying to see what works, understanding what to do in a crowd, understanding a set and how to deliver lyrics. Like, I've learned a lot in a very short amount of time because I've been performing so much. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And then that transfers over to the original gigs, where it's like, okay, I know how an audience works, and I know what, time frame I have, and where I really need to like catch their attention and where I don't. And that's actually been really, really helpful and translates to the original gigs, I think. So I've actually been pretty blessed with having like a nice balance of those two.
So it's definitely been very helpful in terms of the stagecraft. And I feel like a lot of performers coming up now, I don't, if they're kind of wanting to go on The Voice or whatever, I don't think they kind of understand how important it is to build your stagecraft.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not good enough at guitar or vocals to just wow somebody, So I have to work at the performance aspect, I have to work at the songwriting, the lyrics, and then, I can create a full experience, that might actually engage somebody much better than if I knew, all the chords and, like melodies to like, jazz, stuff that I could never even think about trying to play right now. But it just depends, like creating the experience can be just as, important and powerful as, having a nice range or something like that. So it's really, I've noticed it's more like the full picture and like bringing that to the audience. So,
well, thank you for being honest about that. And I think a lot of musicians, wouldn't necessarily talk about the gigs that pay the bill versus the ones that are the passion projects.
So it's been a grind, and I've been like accepting of it and trying to embrace all of it. It's putting all of myself into it has been an interesting kind of experiment, because no matter the gig, whether it's a winery or the 930 club, or like with a full band, or just on my own in an open mic, it's like I always think to myself, okay, here I am in a room, here are some people, like this is my chance, kind of thing. You know what I mean? This is what I'm here for, and this is like my craft. So, I have to respect that. So it's been it's been really, really an educational, an educational journey going through these different kinds of shows. But I've loved it, and now it's helping me with my original shows.
So you're saying you come up to New York and you gig here and things. So are you planning on doing more of a West Coast tour? Are you planning on bigger tours? Are you planning on European tours, perhaps?
Yes. So this, this November is my first kind of Northeast full tour. I'm starting in Portland, Maine, and then coming all the way back down to Washington, D.C., going through Boston and Philly, parts of New Hampshire, Connecticut, Delaware. So that'll be really exciting. And then, going, hopefully expanding regionally next year. And I used to live in a small country called Andorra in Europe. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Wow. Yeah.
It's, between Spain and France. It's got about like 60,000 people nestled in the Pyrenees Mountains. So I have a really nice network of folks, in Spain, France, England, Germany. So hopefully getting into that in 2019, 2020.
Well, obviously, you'll also have to go to Scotland as well.
Of course.
That's where I'm from.
Okay. Well, yeah, of course.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah. Where do you suggest in Scotland I go to?
Obviously, Glasgow. Glasgow has such a great music scene as well as a great nightlife anyway. So I would definitely recommend Glasgow. Yeah. And I will hook you up with some very good friends of mine. You probably won't understand them. Very, very strong accents.
I love that already.
Yeah. But no, they're just the best people.
Like, great.
I miss home a lot. Enough about me. Let's talk about you.
No, I'd love to know. So wait, just how long have you been in the New York area?
3.5 years.
And did you come here for music?
Yes, I did. Wow. I think it was easier, I think, for me to get to New York than it was to get to Nashville.
Right.
And I think my sort of country style / Americana style of music would probably be better suited to Nashville, but I can go, I go down there every now and again and I record or I do some gigs. And, what I do love about New York is just this super creative vibe that's here, and it doesn't matter. I think, with music, it almost, to some extent, it doesn't matter what you play or what kind of music you play. And just the people and the experiences here are, it's just been so eye-opening, I don't know, life-affirming and life-altering and all of those amazing, the earth has cracked beneath my feet and all of that stuff. It's been so great to be here. And yeah, and the Songwriter Circle has been a big part of that.
That's so cool. I love that you're doing that.
And we would obviously love to have you do one of our shows, if you can squeeze us in between all of your East and West Coast tours.
Yeah, if we figured out soon enough, I'd love to just get something going. And I was really serious about you, coming down to DC too. Like, we've got to get that crew down here because I'd love to connect the scenes, so.
No, that would be awesome. I think myself and Kevin Daniel, who I did a podcast with a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about coming down to DC. So you'd like Kevin. He's a fun guy. We like Kevin. Cool. But back to you. So let's just let's talk about you. So you are playing at Rockwood in November. What give us the details, Eli.
Sure. So at 8:00 on Wednesday, November 14th, I'll be playing a show at Rockwood with I'm actually doing a duo, a neo-folk duo. Playing with a singer called Megan Lee out of Maryland, and she's a great singer. So we'll have, my songs kind of worked in with harmonies and a little bit of percussion. So it'll be great. Last time I was there with the band, with a drummer and a bassist, and the time before that I was there solo. So this will be a different show, and the first time that I brought this arrangement to New York. So it's gonna be great.
Oh, amazing! Look forward to that. I will be coming along to that, of course.
Fantastic.
And tell me, what are the favorite things that you love about New York? As a performer and as just a general person.
Yeah, no, there's just a vibration. I mean, you can describe it, you can't describe it. It's the conversations, it's the subway, it's the water around it. I feel like, that island itself, the rocks have something going on with there, but you land in there and you feel like there's been an opening. And the weird thing about New York is that if you stay long enough, it can almost become like you don't notice it. You notice it, but not in the way that I notice it coming from, small town Washington, D.C. because we're really a small town compared to New York. But yeah, every time I go there, there's just like this opening of, creative kind of like feeling, and just like, something's happening. And, also the fact that there are doors that I don't even know exist there. I feel like there's lower levels and upper levels and elevators, and everything could go everywhere, just depending on like, where you are at a certain moment. So there's always that excitement every time I go to New York.
A night out in New York could just end in so many different ways, positive or negative, but mostly positive. You just never know who you're going to meet. You could meet a stranger at a bar and, I don't know, end up halfway to Nova Scotia or something. Do you know what I mean? Never happened to me. Just saying.
Yeah.
But that's exciting, and all the best with the new EP, Way Out West, and that is coming out December the 7th, Friday, December the 7th.
Yep, it's the first Friday in December, so there's going to be a lot of musical activity, and then I've got my big album release here in Washington, D.C. towards the end of the year, so super excited about that too. There's a lot of big things happening.
A lot of big things. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come and chat to us. And again, we look forward to planning a show with you, hopefully in 2019.
That would be great. And you got to come down to Washington, D.C. too. Got a bunch of venues here that love singer-songwriters, and you've got a great sound. So I know you'd fit right in.
Thank you very much. I will do that. All right. We'll speak soon. Thanks, Eli.
Thank you.
Eli Lev there. What a lovely guy. And you can catch Eli Lev at Rockwood Music Hall, Stage 1, November 14th at 8 o'clock. And you can catch up with him on Instagram at Eli Lev Music. And I think his website is www.eli-lev.com. Well, this was fun, wasn't it, kiddos? I'm sorry, I don't know where I was going with that. So if you want to stay in touch with us, we are at New York Artist Collective on Instagram. I am at Stephanie Manns. This has been delightful. We shall catch you next week. I am chatting with Chris Purica. This is very exciting. I've been a big fan of Chris's for a long time. Indie folk singer-songwriter Chris Purica will be on the show next week, so make sure you tune in. See you next time. New York Artist Collective.